Hello, Tom, aka Shadowrun here for Star Frontiers Gamer. And we have another Fanzine Friday, as you can tell by the background. And we might as well get right to it. We are reviewing Star Frontiersman number 14. I don't always think of this as a straight up Star Frontiers cover, but if you notice in the background on this image, it does say Pan Galactic on the ship, and this little control panel that's right in here says Streel Subspace. Streel, of course, being a megacorp. Pangalactic is also a megacorp in the Star Frontier setting. So it's not something it was not one of my favorite covers, but it's still one of the few actual legit Star Frontiers content covers. So this is the technical journal, and it's a review of chemical drives. It's written by Richard Rose. It's only a page long. And I mean, honestly, I've ignored chemical drives for like 98% of my involvement in Star Frontiers, because, they're just so limited. But it is a tech examination of parsing out engine size by fuel capacity and consumption rate and cost. So this was a little bit of work done by Richard. He does a lot of Nighthawks material. So great little one page. Then we get into the optional rules. Now, the first one here is Nighthawks Expanded. And what this is, some of you are going to look at it and go, you know what that reminds me of? Starfleet Battles. And basically, this was Larry Moore was breaking down the 10 minutes Nighthawks turn more or less into phases done pretty much like the way things were done in Starfleet Battles, if you remember that old war game. So it's a different adaptation of that, so that what you would have is simultaneous movement with adjustments made for speed, which I've not, as much as I enjoyed Starfleet Battles, I've never actually used this in a Nighthawks game, and maybe I need to revisit that, because that is kind of a cool idea, that you're having simultaneous movement adjusted for speed, so that, one ship's got greater speed than the other. It should be doing a little bit more. So this might actually be something I revisit in the future. You get a simultaneous fire rule by Brian Conway, which I don't know about simultaneous fire in a 10-minute turn. And if you're going to switch up to like a simultaneous fire, I almost think like you need to make sure that like the laser batteries, which fire during the moving player's turn, and in both sides of the Nighthawk's turn, get to fire, so they'd be effectively firing twice. You'd be rolling twice with your laser batteries, rocket batteries. I believe laser cannons would as well. Only the moving player only weapons would get one shot in. But so all these multiple rules. Then the next was some character generation tables. Now, looking at this table on gravity, this was adjustments to the player character for the gravity of the planet where they grew up. And so you've got, for all of the ability scores, and then height and weight. My one big problem here is I think there's a typo over here on the weight. So you've got all these negatives for lower gravity, and then the modifications for higher gravity, higher than, just seem out of whack. So it seems like there's a little bit of a typo here that perhaps could be corrected by just making all these negatives here pluses. That's my takeaway on that. climate conditions are interesting, but again, you would have to be rooting characters into a particular planet. This is where they grew up. So that would be a decision that you would need to make at character creation. And one of the things that I have found is that character creation can be very fast in Star Frontiers, but asking a player who doesn't know the setting well to look at the astrographic catalog and look at all the stars and planets there and figure out which planet they want their character to be from could be problematic, because I'm always pushing players to try to root their character. But if they just don't know the setting, they're going to have a hard time deciding, Rupert's Hole sounds interesting. They're just not going to know what sort of planet they want their character to come from. So I think the whole climate and the gravity thing is tough. It's a level of extra detail that you can certainly add. What I do like here is this table 3, the personality table. It's a D100 table of personality traits, and I just think that's cool. That maybe sometime to just roll a couple personality traits for your character, mark them on your sheet, and then that's how you're going to role play that character. I'm kind of down with that. I kind of like, but again, I've said this repeatedly, love a D100 table. The next article is Adventure Bots, and it is part 2, expanding the robot PC role playing. So this is part 2 to the previous Adventure Bots article, and it just expands upon that. Some of the artwork's a little funny. Like I love this particular robot right here with the question mark on his face screen, like doesn't have a clue. So this is just more expansion of the other. So if you're going in that direction, you want to consult part 2 as well. Now, Cyberbionics. I wrote a cyber article and submitted it at the same time as this one, but I got bumped. Mine got bumped to the next issue. This here, and I'm actually kind of good with that, because it might have been a little confusing for the two of them in the same issue. But this one here by Bill Logan is very deep and extensive. And what you really have here is an article on Cyberbionics that takes Star Frontiers into that Shadowrun level of cybernetics and augmentation going on. So this is very much, you include this in your game, you're going to have a Shadowrun feel to your Star Frontiers game. That's not necessarily a bad thing if you're a fan of Shadowrun. If that appeals to you. It did not appeal to me, and you'll kind of see that when we look at the cybernetics article that's coming in the next issue, because I wrote it. We'll discuss that at that time. But anyhow, I mean, just look at how extensive this article is. So that they cover a lot of ground, but then you get into all of right here. Look at this is a table of bionic implants, more bionic implants, and we get cybernetic energy source implants, cybernetic implants, and then it's just description upon description of all of this gear. So if you're a gearhead and you like equipment, you might enjoy digging into this quite a bit. But again, this is very much going hard left into Shadowrun with Star Frontiers, which Star Frontiers had very limited implants when it first came out. And so, later on, I think Shadowrun came along later on after the fact. And so you might just be like, hey, yeah, that's my cup of tea. So, but again, very extensive article. I mean, Bill Logan outdid himself with this material. Just a lot to cover here, but a lot of it is just descriptions of the new ink, like here, sonic claw, robotic torso, just, sonic talon, just equipment upon equipment. Then we get into, there are 2 character sheets for ablative damage here. One for the Dralocyte and one for the Vrusk. So So here we have a game report, Star Frontiers: The Dominion. This was a game that Shadow Shack ran, his Sovereign Dominion Authority game. And a little bit later in this magazine, we're going to have an adversary. It's the adversary talked about here, Magnate General Yansun She Dao. So this is this is a game report, and don't look at it as a game report that, oh, boring, I'm going to read about somebody else's game. Actually, what he's really giving you here is background that this might be inspiration for you to run a similar game. And this is a Star Frontiers setting that's in like Civil War. There's like war has come and the frontier is divided, and lots of people are being killed and stuff is happening. So it's definitely a lot of interesting material here. Then we get into equipment, flamethrower gauntlets, which are fine. I do have one issue here, one nitpick with this Vortex LWS. And so it's a Vortec laser pistol that's essentially identical to the laser pistol from the game. But with the rifle attachment, you suddenly get the rifle range with the same pistol. And, that just by adding the extended stock to the pistol, you magically up the range. I'm not so sure that would happen. I'm not sold on that. Plus, this stock over and above the regular laser rifle, it holds 3 power clips, so that's kind of a that's kind of a game changer with this. And again, I don't know if I really like that. I'm not so sure about that. So this is not a weapon I completely endorse for my game. It's I look at it and I'm like, I'm not sure it's something I want to add to my game personally. But I'm just but again, I'm nitpicking at some of the things to it. But next you get a conversion, or a conversion of the variable sword from Larry Niven's Ringworld to Star Frontiers. And again, I'm not 100% in favor of this weapon. And that is in part that it's adding a burst attack, like the same thing as a burst machine gun attack, to a melee weapon. And I don't know if I'm in favor of that. It's, and I think the only way I would really know if I was in favor of that is to allow it in a game and see how it plays out through playtesting. And so for there, then I would be like, all right, I hate this, or yeah, this was cool in our game, and I was, I was okay with it. So I don't. It's just not something I've ever allowed in my game. And of course, most players forget that it's here in Star Frontiersman 14, so nobody ever asked for it. But it's definitely not something I go, oh yeah, you encounter a Capellan free merchant. Well, look, he's got a variable sword for sale. Woohoo! It's not something I've offered up within my game. The PDG robotics. I kind of like this first one here, this engineering control module. But this other one, I just awful lot of extra stuff was added to him, and I'm not so sure that I like the, where was it, Skyne armor, that it was a paint-on coating. And I so my nitpick there is change it to extra padding like Skyne armor. And I'm absolutely down with saying, ballistic armor for a robot that's basically like the Skyne suit for the player characters. It's ablative. It gets blasted away, same as a blade of armor for military tanks in the modern day. Um, but it adds 100 points, and I really think it ought to be like 50, same as the Skyne suit for the player characters. But minor nitpick. So I have some nitpicks on this particular robot, but that's neither here nor there. Now, here is an interesting piece of equipment that I actually like, and this is taking the polyplate and partial and full polyplate armor from the digitally remastered Alphadon rule set. Now, I know the digitally remastered Alphadon rule set is not available on the web. But one of the things that was included in that was this partial and polyplate armor, and you could essentially use this little recap of the stats on it to add it to your game. Basically, full polyplate armor is kind of like Stormtrooper armor, completely covered the guy, and then partial polyplate armor would be like when they went to Endor. When the rebels went to Endor, and so they had some armor, but it didn't completely cover their bodies. And, they each, although, oh yeah, here's the dex modifier for these different armors is included in here as well. Now, what they're doing for power armor is adding a exoskeleton to the polyplate armor. And I kind of like this approach to power armor because you're taking two things that already exist and just marrying them and not creating a whole new thing with whole new rules mechanic. These are existing rules mechanics. My only quibble would be is the exoskeleton from Alphadon is a power hog. It's so it could be problematic trying to use it as the basis for for power armor. That's my perception on this, but I do like this. They've got a nice reasonable table of add-ons here, infrared goggles, gas mask flashlight, magna goggles, polyvox, radiophone. These are all reasonable add-ons options for this thing, and straight out of most of it's straight out of the Alphadon equipment list. So this is actually a very cool, it's one page, it's concise, but it's a good idea. I kind of like this approach to power armor over other approaches I've seen. So but again, I've not play tested it. My games have just not progressed to the point that player characters were buying power armor. But this, yeah, definitely, this would probably be the way I go first time out, for that sort of thing. Now, Frontier Fiction. You get two stories in here. You've got an interview with an old spacer by pariah Jess Carver. And here's the thing. This is a explanation of the origin of the privateer from Dragon Magazine, Yachts and Privateers. Rollo's Revenge was one of the privateers. And so this is a story kind of explaining the origin of Rollo's Revenge. Next, you get this story. It's called Memory. It's written by me. And what it is this is the aftermath of one of the encounters in the Warriors of White Light module. The one with Lieutenant, I want to say Classed, Lieutenant Tab and Classed. So Lieutenant Max or Tab, spoiler alert, if you're about to play in Warriors of White Light, shut the video off now. Lieutenant Max or Tab is a traitor, and he is working for the Sathar, and he is attempting to hand over the Osprey, the Assault Scout Osprey, to the Sathar, and that's what's about to goes down with this one particular encounter. This is the aftermath to that. I wrote this story as these two characters in here, Groon and what's the other guy's name? Oh, Ensign Bryson are they're recovering from the aftermath of that thing, and so the government has decided to cover up that there was a traitor within the that there was a Sathar agent within the Royal Marines. And so there's a cover up going on here. And that's what this story is about. It explores um, that situation a little bit. And there's a part 2 to this called Demons. And that'll come in the next issue, I believe. So this year's Adversaries, and I mentioned earlier that this article kind of goes with the game report on the Sovereign Domain Authority. So this is the write-up on Magnate General Yansun She Dao. There's plot hooks here, there are stats, and then there's also a timeline here, which is, an extensive timeline covering the events in the Sovereign Domain Authority game. So next up, we have a encounter writing competition. I had been part of a community on a website called terragenesis.uk.co. something or other. So it was a terrain building website, and they used to have terrain competitions. Absolutely loved participating in those. Even I think I got bronze. I got third place in one. Never got gold. I never won. Was the big kahuna winning one, but it was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed that. But then the guy running it got full of himself and started instituting changes, and you have to write a description for every photo you've uploaded. And so what happened is because people weren't doing it, he disabled your account until you went, and I had uploaded tons of photos, and I didn't want to go back and write descriptions for stuff I'd uploaded 2 years prior. And so he was just being really heavy-handed and throwing his weight around. I just didn't like it. I'm like, and so I left. I just left the community. And I've gone back and checked it out every once in a while, and I'm like, it doesn't look like anything has changed with this guy, so I just don't participate there. But I was coming off of that, and I had really enjoyed, the spirit of competition, writing, of creating in competition. And so I was proposing this encounter writing competition, and I was offering as a prize this here hat, the Volturnus Survey mission number 2. This here hat. Now I'd had 12 of these made, and as a surprise, I had a Star Frontiers game going, and we were working our way through the crashed on Volturnus, and we were getting to the second module, and the players were going to discover all of their equipment that was stolen by the pirates at the pirate outpost in the second module. And so part of that was I was going to hand these out to all the players at the table. And but we never got to that. So I had a box of hats sitting around, and I've given a few away over the years and gave one away as part of this competition. So this competition's old news, but I still have a cool hat. And there's a few people out there with a cool hat, Star Frontiers hat. And so next we have encounter tiles. Now there's 2 different sets of encounter tiles here. There's this one down here, if you see the cursor moving, Larry Moore did that. This here is something I did in, I believe it might have been Dungenie. And I took the original mountain tile on the back of the Port Loren map, and I expanded it. Instead of it being the 1 8.5 by 11 area, it's now 4 of those 8.5 by 11 areas. So you can print them out, and here they are as pages, full pages in the magazine. And you can just print them out and tape them together and use them as a poster map. So instead of it just being a small area that you would use, because let's face it, things like lasers, heavy lasers, they have some long range. You can have a much bigger area and a much bigger tactical situation to be involved. And so this map is available here in the magazine. And then you've got Larry's encounter that he's done up, and he's also done up a bunch of these things that you can, Verreault, great, public computer console workstations. So you can cut these up and add these to your map. There's more here, and so that's a resource as well. The adventure layouts. This was some help for you in writing up, an adventure. Not much to it there. WorldWorks Station. This is a review by me on WorldWorks. WorldWorks Mars Station. WorldWorks is a company that produces paper models. So you purchase it, you get the PDFs, and then you can print out what you need. You want to use higher quality paper, not standard printer paper. And if you get into doing the paper models, and I got into it at this time that this issue was published, but I just find them to be a little bit flimsy. And I don't know. I mean, I think there's a possibility. They look great. They absolutely look fantastic. And some of the smaller things are not bad. But the bigger buildings, I think, are just flimsy because they are a paper model. So there's a temptation for me to revisit this and print this stuff out and paste it to foam core and build the buildings out of foam core. They'd be a little bit more substantial, but they still have the nice look that you get from these WorldWorks, cut and fold paper models. Something you could certainly do. I'm just, I know I was endorsing it at the time. I can't give it a solid, enthusiastic endorsement anymore, but definitely WorldWorks is worth checking out, and you might find it to be something, something that you might use. Certainly, I've printed out this base here, this Mars ground, and pasted a bunch of them on a big piece of black foam core, so I could just throw it on the table, and had a nice 1 inch. It's got little 1 inch squares on there. So I've used bits and pieces of this. I just have not I've not remained a solid fan of the WorldWorks product line. And then again, classifieds. You have a classified here for a Royal Marines of Clarion game I was running. This was the crest I made up for the Royal Marines. You would get some more of the Torita and Gorko. Here's a wanted dead and or live is crossed out. Wanted Torita, 25,000 credits for holding an illegal estate sale. She sold all this stuff, claiming he was dead. And now he wants her dead. And then, just some more ads. Again, the classifieds, I think, are useful sometimes for just having a little bit of a flavor handout to the player characters. So this is Tom for Star Frontiers Gamer with another Fanzine Friday reviewing Star Frontiersman number 14. Thanks for watching. Thanks to my subscribers. You guys are great. And I will see you in the frontier. I gotta take